My girlfriend Sophia handed me over to a psychiatric hospital for the sake of her white moonlight. There I was tormented and ultimately met a miserable death. But I never expected that after I died, she would completely lose her mind, embrace my urn, and set herself on fire in our rented room. Even more unbelievable, I was reborn and returned to the day she confessed her feelings to me. This time, I looked at her flushed face and said only one word: get out. Main text: Ethan, I like you. The girl's voice was clear with a slight tremor, like a pebble thrown into a lake, sending out a small ripple at the edge of the noisy basketball court. I stood where I was, my mind completely blank. The scene before me was both familiar and strange. Afternoon sunlight filtered through the camphor tree leaves, casting mottled shadows on the ground. The air smelled of the plastic track and the boys' sweat. Not far off, the thud of a basketball hitting the court and the cheers of my brothers mingled into a vivid picture of youth. And the girl in front of me, Sophia, wore a school uniform washed almost to whiteness. The face that would later turn everyone's world upside down was now written all over with nervousness and anticipation. Her eyes shone as if filled with starlight, and her cheeks glowed with an adorable flush from shyness and excitement. The surrounding jeers grew louder. Ethan, that's awesome. The school beauty is chasing you. Say yes. Say yes. My brother Lucas elbowed me hard and mouthed with a wink. Why are you standing there like an idiot? Say yes already. This is Sophia. Yeah, this is Sophia. Later, that dazzling, radiant superstar Sophia who drove countless men mad. She was also the woman who personally sent me to the psychiatric hospital, who made me suffer immeasurably, and who caused me to die in endless pain and despair. The dam of memory burst open with a roar. The drugs force-fed to me, the cold restraints, the endless electric shock treatments, and the orderly's malicious taunts and blows. Those bone-gnawing pains and humiliations felt as if they had happened just a second ago. I remember that in that hell on earth, I howled her name over and over, from pleading to cursing and finally to numbness. I also remember that after I died, my soul drifted in the air and I saw her holding my urn, locking herself in the apartment we once rented. That girl who used to be afraid even to light the gas stove, expressionless, turned the valve and struck a match. In a towering blaze, she held my urn, laughing through her tears, murmuring over and over, Ethan, I was wrong. Please come back. I'll take you home. Madman. She had gone mad too. How ironic. A sharp, stabbing pain came from where my heart should be. Not a hallucination, but real, physiological pain. I gasped, digging my nails deep into my palm to barely suppress the hatred and absurdity that threatened to break out of my chest. Rebirth. I actually got reborn. Back to the place where it all began. In my last life, it was here that I was moved by the light in her eyes and her all-or-nothing courage. I thought this was the start of a fairy tale, so I foolishly nodded and took her hand. I worked myself to the bone to treat her well, working 3 jobs to pay for her art school, shielding her from wind and rain, resolving every trouble for her, willingly becoming the stepping stone for her to chase her dreams. I thought she would be my whole world, until her white moonlight, the son of a famous director, Dylan, appeared. Dylan merely showed her a little favor, and she chose him without hesitation. To completely get rid of me, this stain, she and Dylan teamed up and used a forged psychiatric evaluation to send me into that hell. Ethan, seeing that I hadn't responded for a long time, the light in Sophia's eyes dimmed slightly, and a trace of barely perceptible grievance crept into her voice. The jeering around us gradually died down. Everyone was looking at me, waiting for my answer. Lucas, anxious, shoved me again. I lifted my head, my gaze passing over Sophia to look at a spot not far away. There, Dylan was leaning against a tree, his hands in his pockets, a faint, amused smile on his lips as if watching a show. I saw him. I saw everything. In my past life, as a blind fool, I failed to see anything. Now I see everything clearly. This so-called brave confession was nothing more than a wager between them. A boring game about who can be the first to get this insensitive poor student. How ridiculous. The treasure I spent my life protecting was, in others' eyes, merely the start of a game. And I was the biggest clown kept completely in the dark. An overwhelming hatred intertwined with a bone-deep exhaustion, making it almost impossible for me to stand. I took a deep breath and slowly exhaled, forcibly suppressing the emotions surging in my chest. Then I looked at Sophia, at her face written all over with innocence and expectation. In my last life, it was this very face that deceived me. Not in this life, anymore. I tugged at the corner of my mouth and, in the deathly silence that filled the room, clearly breathed a single word. Get out. It was as if the whole world had been muted. The thud of the basketball stopped. The summer cicadas fell silent, and everyone's breathing seemed to freeze. Lucas's smile froze, staring at me in disbelief as if looking at an alien. Dylan leaned against the tree, the playfulness draining from his face, his brow furrowed slightly, as if displeased by this unexpected turn of events. And Sophia, the color drained from her face in an instant, the bright light in her eyes fracturing into pieces of starlight, replaced rapidly by rising moisture. Her lips trembled. She seemed to want to say something, but not a single word came out. That tearful, abandoned look stood in sharp contrast to the image in my memory of her standing at the gate of the psychiatric hospital, watching me being dragged in with cold indifference. In my past life, seeing her like this made my heart ache and curl up. But now, I only feel utter disgust. Ethan, you must be joking, right? Lucas stammered, breaking the silence and trying to smooth things over. Sophia, he's joking with you. I'm not joking. I cut him off, my gaze like an ice pick stabbing straight at Sophia. I told you to get out. Can't you understand? A tear finally slipped from Sophia's eye, hanging on her pale cheek, making her look particularly forlorn. Whispers began to ripple through the crowd. God, is Ethan crazy? That's Sophia. Did he take the wrong medicine? How could he be so disrespectful to the campus beauty? That's so hurtful. A girl even took the initiative like that. Those murmurs were like countless needles piercing the ears. But this time, their target was no longer me. It was Sophia. She probably had never suffered such humiliation. From childhood to now, she had always been treated like a princess in the palm of someone's hand. When had anyone ever scolded her like this in public? Her body began to tremble slightly, not from fear, but from extreme embarrassment and anger. Ethan. She ground her teeth, the grievance in her eyes quickly turning into shame and fury. How dare you say that about me? On what grounds? I sneered, stepping forward. She was frightened by my momentum and took a step back. On the grounds that I don't want to see your hypocritical face anymore. Does that reason suffice? My voice was not loud, but it was loud enough for everyone around to hear clearly. Hypocritical? Sophia sounded as if she'd heard the biggest joke, her tears flowing even harder. How am I hypocritical? I just like you. Is that so? I scanned the area, my gaze finally landing on Dylan, then returning to Sophia's face, the corner of my mouth curving with deeper mockery. Do you dare look into his eyes and say again that the one you like is me? My words were like a thunderclap, exploding through the crowd. Everyone's eyes followed my line of sight, and all turned in unison to Dylan under the tree. Dylan's expression instantly soured. As for Sophia, she was like a cat stepped on the tail, completely blown up. What nonsense are you spouting? I'm not close with him at all, she screamed, her voice unusually shrill from guilt. Not close. I laughed. If you weren't close, would he be here watching the show? If you weren't close, would you wager on who could be the first to win over a bookworm like me? Boom! The crowd erupted completely. What? A bet? Are you serious? That's disgusting. I knew it. Why would Sophia go for Ethan? Turns out it was for fun. Sophia's face had gone as white as paper. She waved her hands frantically, trying to explain, no, it's not like that. Don't listen to his nonsense. But at this moment, Any of her excuses sounded pale and powerless. Because no one here was a fool. When people thought about the huge gap between rich kid Dylan and poor student Ethan, and then looked at both of their reactions just now, the truth was already plain to see. I stopped looking at her, turned to Lucas, who was still in a stunned state, and said, "Let's go. Time to eat." "Huh? Oh. Lucas woke, as if from a dream, and hurried to follow my steps. When I passed by Dylan, I stopped. He looked at me with a sullen face, his eyes full of malice and warning. I met his gaze without the slightest concern and said calmly, "Stay away from me, or else I won't mind making you famous around the school." After I finished speaking, I ignored him and walked straight toward the cafeteria. Behind me came Sophia's uncontrollable sobs and the disdainful murmurs of the people around us. I knew that from today on, Sophia's pure school beauty image had cracked, and I had finally shaken off the beginning of this nightmare. Sunlight fell across me, warm. I took a deep breath. The stagnant stench that had built up in my chest for years seemed, at this moment, to finally be expelled. How wonderful. Being alive feels wonderful. In the cafeteria, Lucas scooped at the rice in his bowl, looking like he wanted to say something but held back. "Ask whatever you want." I ate calmly. In this life, being able to calmly eat a hot meal is already a luxury. Lucas put down his chopsticks, leaned over, and lowered his voice to ask, "Ethan, you really don't like Sophia? And the bet you mentioned earlier, was that for real? Do I look like I'm joking?" I shot back. Lucas scratched his head. "Not like that. The way you're just now scare me. I've never seen you so scary." I said nothing, just placed a piece of braised pork in his bowl. Lucas is my only friend. After my accident in my previous life, only he refused to believe those diagnoses, running around for me, even begging Sophia on my behalf, and ended up having his leg broken by Dylan's men. I have remembered that debt my whole life. This time around, I will never let him suffer any harm because of me again. Stay away from Sophia and Dylan from now on. I warned, they're not people we can mess with. I know, Dylan's family is rich and powerful. Lucas muttered, then spat angrily, but they're just too abusive, treating people like monkeys. That's why we need to stay even further from them. I looked at him and said seriously, "Lucas, listen to me and study hard. Only by getting out can we completely get away from here." Lucas met my stern gaze and nodded firmly. "Yeah, I'll listen to you, Ethan." The commotion on the basketball court spread through the entire campus as if it had grown wings. I became the cold-hearted heartbreaker in everyone's eyes, while Sophia became the tragic heroine who bravely pursued love only to be mercilessly trampled. Most people sympathized with her and blamed me. I couldn't care less. Fame? Can it be eaten? I still go back and forth every day between the library, the cafeteria, and the dormitory, occasionally playing ball with Lucas. My life is as calm as a stagnant pool, but that's exactly what I want. I need time to plan my future. In my last life, I spent all my energy on Sophia, neglected my studies, and missed countless opportunities. This life, I hold the script for the next decade plus. If I still can't fight for a way out for myself and my family, then my rebirth truly would have been for nothing. Bitcoin, the mobile internet wave, the rapidly developing real estate, countless hotspots swirl in my mind. I need the first pot of gold. And now, there's 1 year left until the college entrance exam. The closest opportunity one can seize is the college entrance exam. With memories and knowledge from more than a decade ahead, getting into a top university's computer science program was not difficult for me. That would be the first lever to pry open my future. However, my peaceful life did not last long. One evening a week later, I came out of the library and was blocked by Sophia at the entrance. She looked much more haggard, with faint dark circles under her eyes. When she saw me, a complex flame immediately lit in her eyes. There was hatred, resentment, and a trace of stubbornness and grievance she herself hadn't even noticed. "Ethan, we need to talk." Her voice was hoarse. "We have nothing to talk about." I sidestepped her and tried to leave. "Stand still." She grabbed my arm, astonishingly strong. "You have to explain yourself." Why did you say that day what you did? Why did you slander me?" Her voice trembled with sobs, drawing the sideways glances of the classmates around us. I frowned, and a faint ache began again in my chest. I don't want any more entanglement with her. "Let go." My voice cooled. "I'm not letting go. Unless you tell me. Did someone say something to you? Do you have some misunderstanding about me?" She stared at me stubbornly, tears welling in her eyes. "I know it was my bet with Dylan that made you angry. I'm sorry. I admit I was wrong. I shouldn't have treated feelings like a joke. But Ethan, when I was preparing to confess to you, I realized I truly fell in love with you. Believe me." Her words were sincere and moving. If I were still the fool from my past life, I might really have softened and believed her. But now, I only found it laughable. Like? Her love. Was it just using me as a tool to spite Dylan? Was it sticking to me when I succeeded and kicking me away when I fell? Was it flattering a new patron and sending me to a psychiatric hospital to eliminate future trouble? That kind of love is too cheap and too vicious. Sophia. I looked at her and spoke each word slowly. Put away that pretentious act. Who you love means nothing to me. I'll say it one last time. Let go. My gaze was so cold that the hand she had on my arm couldn't help trembling. She stared at me dumbfounded, seemingly unable to understand why the boy who had been rumored a few days ago to have feelings for her had become so strange and heartless. "You, how could you become like this?" she murmured, the tears in her eyes finally breaking free. "You weren't like this before." Before. I sounded as if I'd heard a joke. Do you know the me from before? Do you know what I eat every day, what I wear, what I worry about? You know nothing. You're just lost in your fantasy of saving a poor boy, gratifying your pitiful, condescending pity. My words were like a knife, precisely piercing into her most private thoughts. Her whole body trembled, the color draining completely from her face. "No, that's not. Enough." I had lost all patience and yanked her hand away. "Don't bother me anymore. Between us, ever since you made that bet with Dylan, nothing is possible. You and him, you're the same kind." With that, I left without looking back. Behind me came her heart-wrenching cries, but I didn't turn back, not a single step. I'm afraid that if I turn my head, I won't be able to help wondering whether, the last time she sent me to the psychiatric hospital, she also left without looking back. After this unpleasant breakup, Sophia kept quiet for a while. My life finally returned to normal. I began to systematically preview and review my studies. With an adult's mind and advanced memory, the math, physics, and chemistry problems that used to give me a headache now became as simple as 1 + 1 = 2. My grades improved by leaps and bounds. In one monthly exam, I shot from the middle of the grade straight into the top 10. This result stunned all the teachers and students, including Lucas. "Ethan, what kind of miracle pill did you take? This rate of improvement is way too exaggerated." He held the report card, his mouth open wide enough to fit an egg. I just smiled. "I told you to study properly. Only I know that this is just the beginning. My goal is to be the provincial top scorer. I will enter the best university in the country in the most dazzling manner and begin my brand new life. My rapid rise in rank made me the school's new rising star." Before, when people mentioned Ethan, the impression was that poor student, Sophia's rumored boyfriend. Now they would say that academic god. People's attitudes are just that pragmatic. I began to receive love letters secretly handed to me by some girls, and walking down the street, I could feel gazes of attention coming from all directions. But none of it could stir the slightest ripple in my heart. My heart had already died in that cold hospital room in my past life. In this life, I don't want to touch anything related to feelings again. But the tree wishes to stand still while the wind will not cease. My rise seems to have provoked certain people. One afternoon, I was called to the office by the homeroom teacher. In the office, besides the homeroom teacher, there was an unexpected person, Dylan. He sat leisurely on the sofa, and when he saw me come in, a provocative smile curled at the corner of his mouth. The homeroom teacher looked very grim. He cleared his throat and said to me, "Ethan, I called you here because there's something I want to verify with you. A cold feeling sank in my heart. A bad premonition. Teacher, please tell me. The homeroom teacher hesitated, picked up a document from the desk, and said, the school recently received a report saying that you were involved in cheating during an exam. Cheating? I understood instantly. This was Dylan's tactic. I looked at Dylan. The smile on his face became even more smug. Teacher, I didn't cheat, I replied calmly. But your grades improved so quickly, it's a bit abnormal, the homeroom teacher said, frowning. Also, someone saw you hand your math exam half an hour early. Exactly, teacher, Dylan said lazily. Who can finish that fast if they're normal? Unless they knew the answers in advance. Our school's reputation can't be ruined by people like that. He kept calling me people like that, full of contempt. I ignored him and said to the homeroom teacher, Teacher, whether I cheated is simple. You can give me any one of the high-difficulty test papers right now, and I'll do it on the spot. If I can't do it, I'll admit to cheating and accept any punishment. My calmness and confidence surprised the homeroom teacher. He glanced at Dylan, then at me, and finally nodded. All right, I'll believe you this once. He pulled a math Olympiad mock exam out of a stack of spare test papers. There are 5 long questions here. If you can correctly solve 3 of them within an hour, I'll believe you. All the teachers in the office turned their attention toward us. They knew exactly how difficult this test paper was. Don't talk about solving 3 problems in an hour. Even if they were given a whole day, being able to fully solve one would be impressive. Dylan even wore an expression of assured victory. To him, I was merely putting on a bluff, a dying struggle. I picked up my pen and glanced at the problems. They were indeed very difficult. But for me, they were not without solution. These types of problems appeared in the various fields I later explored to pass the time, and I had seen similar methods of solving them. I gathered my focus, and my mind began to race. Formulas, theorems, and logical deductions intertwined and collided in my head. The tip of my pen raced across the scratch paper, producing a rustling sound. Only my writing and everyone's breathing remained in the entire office. Dylan's expression shifted from initial contempt to astonishment, then to disbelief. Because he saw that I hardly paused, writing out the complete problem-solving steps one after another. Time passed, minute by minute. In less than 40 minutes, I put down my pen. Teacher, I've finished. I handed the answer sheet to the homeroom teacher. The math teacher also came over, and the two of them bent down to review it together. Their expressions shifted from surprise to shock, and finally to ecstatic joy. All correct. 5 questions. All correct, the math teacher shouted excitedly, his voice trembling. The solution is so clever. My God, this is a genius. The homeroom teacher was also flushed with excitement. He grabbed my shoulder. Ethan, well done. I was wrong about you. A chorus of exclamations and praise rose in the office. I calmly looked at Dylan, whose face had already turned a deep liver color, and said lightly, Now, do you have anything else to say? Dylan's lips moved, but he couldn't utter a single word, no matter how he thought about it. He couldn't understand how a bookish pauper in his eyes could possibly possess such terrifying strength. This time he tried to step on me, but instead became the stepping stone for me to ascend a shrine. His face burned with a searing pain. As for the person who reported me, I paused, my gaze sweeping over Dylan. I think the school should investigate this thoroughly. How to deal with such malicious slander and actions that damage a classmate's reputation. The homeroom teacher immediately understood, looking sternly at Dylan. Dylan, you need to give me an explanation for this. Dylan climbed to his feet in embarrassment and, under the scornful stares of everyone, slunk out of the office. I know this is only the beginning. The grudge between him and me was now completely set. After the cheating scandal, my status at school changed completely. I was no longer the academic god people talked about, but a great god. The teachers treated me like a treasure, giving me the green light all the way and funneling all kinds of competition resources to me. My classmates' looks toward me shifted from simple admiration to reverence. I reveled in this respect that came purely from my strength. This is much more solid than the vanity I gained from riding on Sophia's halo in my previous life. And Sophia also seemed to have completely given up. I would occasionally run into her on campus. She was always walking with Dylan. Only, the way she looked at me grew increasingly complicated. Inside it was resentment, confusion, jealousy, and even a trace of regret she herself hadn't noticed. She probably couldn't understand how the stone she discarded could in an instant become the diamond she had to look up to. And Dylan, the one she chose, in front of me behaved like a buffoon, repeatedly humiliating himself. That tremendous gap was enough to shatter her pitiable pride. But none of that had anything to do with me anymore. There was no longer any place for her in my world. Time flew, and in the blink of an eye, it was the university entrance exam. I walked into the examination hall with absolute confidence and walked out with absolute calm. The day the results were released, the entire Jing City was in an uproar. With a score just 1 point shy of full marks, I became the provincial top scholar. Countless reporters swarmed in, surrounding my family's shabby little building so tightly there was no way through. Under the flashbulbs, I watched my parents, their faces streaked with tears of excitement, and felt a flood of conflicting emotions. Last life, I disappointed them for an entire lifetime. This life, I finally made them proud once. Classmate Ethan, as the top scorer, do you have anything you'd like to say? Classmate Ethan, people call you the god of comebacks. Do you have any study tips you can share? The reporter's questions came one after another. I faced the camera and said calmly, I don't have any secrets. I just want to tell everyone that knowledge can really change your fate. Also, I want to thank my parents and my friend Lucas. In front of their TVs, countless people watched this part of my interview, including Sophia. Later, I heard that day, she locked herself in her room and cried for an entire day. As for Dylan, he failed the college entrance exams and didn't even reach the cutoff for first-tier schools. His father, Mr. Parker, paid a large sum to get him into a third-rate art college. From that moment on, our lives headed in completely different directions. College life was even more exciting than I had imagined. I chose the computer science department at the country's best university. Here, I thrived. I used my spare time to start putting into practice the business blueprints in my head. I decisively bought Bitcoin when it was still just a pile of overlooked code, using the US dollar scholarship for my university entrance exam and a bit of money borrowed from my parents. Then I formed a small team and began developing a mobile app. It was a brand new foreign social app, and at the time its concept seemed very forward-thinking. Lucas had also gotten into a good finance and economics university in the same city as me. Whenever he had free time, he came over to help. Ethan, the stuff you're doing, will it work? He looked at the lines of code on my computer, his face full of doubt. It will, I said confidently, because I knew that in a few years, the wave of mobile internet would sweep everything away. And what I had to do was stand at the crest of that wave. In my sophomore year, my social app officially launched. At first, the response was lukewarm. I wasn't anxious. I knew it needed a trigger to explode. While I improved the product, I continued my studies. Thanks to my outstanding professional abilities, I was noticed by a top professor in the field and joined his lab to take part in a national-level project. My life was step by step, moving steadily forward according to the blueprint I had planned. Meanwhile, Sophia was also following her own life path. With her exceptional looks, she was admitted to the Film Academy. With the help of Dylan's father, the famous director Mr. Parker, she began to play small roles in some TV dramas. She was very talented and very driven. Gradually, she began to gain some fame. We were like two parallel lines that would never meet, each rushing toward our own future. I thought we would never cross paths again in this life. Until that day. It was a weekend. I was debugging code in the lab when I received a call from an unknown number. Hello, is this Ethan? The voice on the other end sounded a little urgent. Yes, this is he. May I ask who is calling? I'm Emma, Sophia's roommate. Sophia, she had an accident. My heart suddenly clenched. It wasn't out of concern, but an instinctive aversion to trouble. What's wrong with her? She went with Dylan to a drinking party, and it seemed she was chased by an investor named Michael. Dylan himself got scared off and left her alone at the Maple Forest Hotel. Go save her. Her phone. Your name is still listed as the emergency contact. Emma's voice was tearful. I hung up the phone and was silent for a few seconds. Save her? Why should that be? In my last life, when I was locked in a psychiatric hospital and called out in despair, who came to save me? Now she's in trouble. Why should I go rescue her? Just because her phone has my name saved? How ridiculous. I turned off my phone, tossed all my thoughts aside, and refocused my attention on the code before me. I typed one character after another on the keyboard. But for some reason, my heart was in turmoil. Images kept flashing before my eyes of the last life. Her holding my urn, her face wet with tears in the firelight. Ethan, I was wrong. Will you come back? You're so annoying. I slammed my hand on the table and stood up. The other students in the lab were all startled and turned to look at me. I took a deep breath, said sorry to them, then grabbed my coat and dashed out of the lab. I ran while cursing myself in my mind. Ethan, you are such a scumbag. She treated you that way, and you still worry about whether she lives or dies. But I stopped, leaned against the wall, and panted. I wasn't trying to save her. I just didn't want to see the same ending as in my last life again. Whether she died clutching my urn, or I watched her plummet into the abyss with my own eyes. We haven't settled this score yet. What she owes me, I want her to pay back awake with an entire lifetime. Not to have it all wiped clean in this way. I took out my phone, powered it back on, and, following the address her roommate had sent, hailed a taxi for the Maple Grove Hotel. When I kicked open the private room door, the scene I saw made my blood boil. A bloated, middle-aged man, Michael, was pinning Sophia to the sofa, ripping at her clothes. Sophia struggled desperately and screamed, her voice hoarse, her face streaked with tears and terror. In that moment, it was as if I saw my helpless, despairing self from the last life in the psychiatric hospital. A nameless fury shot up from the soles of my feet straight to the crown of my head. Let her go. I rushed over and kicked that man, sending him sprawling to the ground. The man hadn't expected someone to burst in. He was stunned for a moment, then flew into a rage. Who the hell are you? How dare you meddle in my business? I'm her father. I let out a roar, grabbed the wine bottle on the table, and hurled it at his head. Bang! The bottle shattered, and blood ran down his forehead. The man screamed in agony, clutched his head, and fell to the ground. The private room fell into a deathly silence. Sophia curled up in the corner of the sofa, tightly wrapped in torn clothes, looking at me with eyes full of shock and disbelief. She probably never expected that the one who came to save her would actually be me. I took off my coat and threw it over her, my voice cold without a trace of warmth. Put on. Get out. After speaking, I took out my phone and dialed the police. Hello, is this the police? This is the Maple Grove Hotel. People are gathering to do drugs, and there's an attempted rape. After doing all this, I turned and walked away, not looking back at her even once. I didn't want any further connection with her. Tonight, consider it payment for what I owed her in my past life, fully settled. From now on, we owe each other nothing. I thought this matter would end there, but unexpectedly, it sparked a huge uproar. The investor, Michael, whose head I opened, was taken away by the police for drug use and attempted rape, his reputation destroyed. And this matter was exposed online. At first, public opinion condemned that investor Michael and Dylan, who fled at the last moment. But soon, the tide turned. Someone dug up the high school past between me, Sophia, and Dylan. The headline, Top Scorer Smashes Investor for Love, Rescues Former Campus Belle Girlfriend, instantly exploded across the internet. My image as the lovesick genius who flew into a rage for love contrasted sharply with Dylan's scumbag persona of cowardly, useless, selling out his girlfriend. Coupled with the old story of me rejecting Sophia and then becoming the top scorer in the exams. A classic comeback script. Countless netizens imagine a melodrama of a devoted genius betrayed, who years later still forgives and heroically rescues the beauty. A tragic love saga. Sophia's and my names together shot to the top of the trending list. My social app also saw its user count surge by millions overnight because of this incident. The servers crashed several times. My team and I worked through the night to maintain them. Lucas watched the rapidly rising numbers with a thrilled look. Ethan, we're trending. Totally trending. But I couldn't smile. This kind of fame was not what I wanted. It once again tied my name to Sophia's tightly and permanently. Sure enough, it didn't take long before Sophia came. She found my school, my laboratory. She stood in front of me, wearing a simple dress, her complexion pale, eyes swollen and red, looking pitiably fragile. "Ethan," she said hoarsely, "thank you. No need." I kept my head down and continued typing code. "I'm not doing it for you." "I know." She bit her lip and said softly, "I know you still hate me." I paused my typing, looked up, and stared at her. "Hate? Sophia, you think too highly of yourself. To me, you're nothing more than an irrelevant stranger. Saving you was just to avoid having another stain on my record for standing by and doing nothing." My words were cruel, like a knife. Her complexion grew several shades paler, her body staggering. "I'm sorry." Tears streamed down her face. "I know, it's too late for anything I say. What happened in high school was my fault. I was deceived by Dylan. I regret it. Ethan, I really regret it." "Regret?" "Regret again. In my past life, she held my urn and said she was sorry. In this life, she stands in front of me again and says she regrets it. How much is her regret actually worth? Your regret means nothing to me." I stood up, ready to leave. "If you really feel sorry, then please don't ever appear in my world again. We should have been done with each other a long time ago." "No." She suddenly grew agitated and grabbed me. "Not clear. How could we ever be even?" She looked up at me, tearful, her eyes full of crazed paranoia. "Ethan, I know you have feelings for me. It's not that you don't. Otherwise, you wouldn't have come to save me that night. You still have me in your heart, don't you?" I looked at her face, distorted by emotion, and felt only absurdity. "Are you crazy?" "Yes, I am crazy." She laughed, and as she laughed, she began to cry. "Since the day you rejected me on the basketball court, I've been crazy. I watched you become better and more dazzling, watched you drift further away from me, and I nearly went mad. I'm jealous. I won't accept it. You were supposed to be mine. I was the one who lost you." She babbled incoherently, her emotions on the verge of collapse. I ripped my hand free from hers and looked at her coldly. "Sophia, you don't love me. You're just unwilling to accept it. Unwilling to see the trash you discarded suddenly become a treasure others fight over. The only one you've ever loved is yourself." My words struck her weak spot once again. She froze where she stood, as if every ounce of strength had been drained away. I ignored her and turned to leave. I thought my words had been harsh enough to make her give up, but I underestimated her obsession. Or rather, I underestimated how tormenting not being able to have something can be for someone. From that day on, Sophia began to pursue me relentlessly. She, just like in my previous life when I courted her, brought me breakfast every day, waiting under the building of my lab for hours on end, come rain or shine. Using her fame, she openly expressed her love and remorse for me at all kinds of public events without any hesitation. She even announced that she could give up her acting career for me. She fashioned herself into the image of a lovesick woman who returned for love, moving countless netizens. Everyone thought we were a match made in heaven and kept telling me to a prodigal son returns, urging me to give her another chance. Even Lucas couldn't help wavering. "Ethan, what if, she just looked kind of pitiful." Pitiful? I just felt a chill run down my spine. How similar this was to the scene from my previous life, right before she sent me to the psychiatric hospital. Only this time, the roles of perpetrator and victim were reversed. She used public opinion and morality to weave a huge web around me, trying to trap me inside it and force me into submission. She thought that by doing this, she could make up for her wrongs and make us mend the broken mirror back together. She was far too naive. A shattered mirror. How could it ever become whole again? Even if you glue it back together, all that would remain are cracks across its surface. My company, Johnson Technology, because of this wave of gossip-driven traffic, received unprecedented attention and soon secured our first angel investment. The company entered the fast lane. I grew increasingly busy, so busy that I had no time to deal with Sophia's entanglements. My indifference and disregard drove her even crazier. Finally, on a rainy night, she blocked the entrance under my office again. She was soaked through, shivering from the cold, looking both miserable and pitiable. "Ethan, talk to me just once, please," she pleaded. I walked past her without looking away. "Ethan," she clung to me from behind. "Why won't you forgive me? I've done everything I can for you. What more do you want from me? I want you dead." I stopped walking, didn't turn around, and spat out the 3 words coldly. Her body went stiff the moment she held me. I could feel her body temperature slowly growing colder. I pried her fingers apart, turned around, and looked at her face, pale as a ghost. "Aren't you the one who wanted to know why I hate you so much?" I leaned close to her ear and, in a voice that only the two of us could hear, articulated each word slowly and deliberately. "Because in my last life, it was you who personally sent me to the psychiatric hospital. Inside, I was given electroshock, pumped full of drugs, and in the end, I died from the pain. Tell me, should I hate you or not?" Boom! A bolt of lightning tore across the night sky, illuminating her face, which in an instant had lost all color. Her pupils contracted sharply, and her body trembled like a leaf in the wind. "You, what did you say?" Her voice shook out of control. "What? Last life? Can't remember?" I tugged at the corner of my mouth, giving a cruel smile. "It's okay. This life, I'll make you remember slowly. I'll make you watch me rise to a height you'll never reach. I'll make you live a lifetime of regret and pain. This is what you owe me." After speaking, I stopped looking at her, opened my umbrella, and walked into the curtain of rain. Behind me came a piercing, inhuman scream. Then there came the sound of something heavy hitting the ground. I didn't look back. "Sophia, the game has only just begun. This lifetime, let me be your nightmare." Easter egg. Years later, the Johnson Tech empire I founded had become a global giant, and my name came to represent an era. And Sophia, after that rainy night, truly went mad. She was admitted to a psychiatric hospital. Ironically, the same one I had stayed in my previous life. She spent her days clutching a pillow, murmuring to herself, telling everyone, "I'm Ethan's girlfriend. He's waiting for me to take him home." No one knew what previous life she spoke of. Everyone thought she was lovesick mad. Dylan later went to prison after being involved in a gang fight and completely vanished into the crowd. Lucas became the second in command of my company, worth billions, with a happy family. Everything seemed to have settled. One morning, I stood in my office at the top of the city, looking down at the traffic bustling below. My phone rang. It's an unfamiliar number. I answered, and on the other end of the line came a familiar, sardonic male voice. "Ethan, or should I call you Player 001? My pupils constricted sharply. "Long time no see. I didn't expect you'd actually clear this beginner dungeon." The voice on the other end of the line carried a smile. "But do you think it's over? Don't forget the script Chasing Your Wife. Cremation Ground has a hidden ending." "What do you mean?" My voice cooled. "It means you think you're the player who was reborn, but have you considered that the Sophia you drove mad might be the same? She was merely an NPC who awakened memories of a past life, but was judged a mission failure by the system. And you are the victor who successfully seized her rebirth opportunity. Now, the main quest is over. The hidden quest begins, redemption. Go to the psychiatric hospital where you died in your past life. Find her. In the room where you died. This world. The final truth is hidden." The call was disconnected. I stood by the window, motionless for a long time. The sunlight outside the window was blinding, but my face was shrouded in gloom. "George, I've got good news and bad news." Which do you want to hear first? I put down my paintbrush and looked at my friend Frank. He stood at the studio door with a mysterious air, his face a mix of nervousness and excitement. Let's start with the bad news. After all, I've gotten used to it these past 3 years. Your painting, Eternity, just sold for a sky-high price. Over $6 million. I frowned. How is that bad news? Frank chuckled. Because it's actually part of the good news. The bad news is, buddy, you might need to see a psychiatrist. What do you mean? A woman who looks exactly like Mary showed up at your art exhibition. I almost thought I was seeing a ghost. The paintbrush slipped from my hand and fell to the floor, splattering paint across the unfinished canvas. Mary, my late wife, died 3 years ago after accidentally falling off a cliff. I watched with my own eyes as her body was pulled from the water. In that moment, my world completely collapsed. Stop joking around, Frank. Why would I lie to you? She even left this. Frank handed me a note, with an address and a time written on it. My hand trembled slightly. The handwriting was exactly the same as Mary's. That night, I waited until midnight at the designated cafe. Just as I was about to leave, a familiar figure appeared at the door. Mary? No, it couldn't be her. But every gesture of that woman, from the tips of her hair to her fingertips, was a shadow of Mary. George, it's been a long time. She sat across from me, and the familiar voice nearly made my heart stop. Who are you? I struggled to remain calm. I'm Mary, your wife. She smiled and reached out her hand. There was a scar on her palm, the mark Mary got when she accidentally cut herself on glass at 15. Impossible. Mary is already dead. She laughed softly. That was just an accident. I fell off the cliff and was saved by a reclusive old doctor. I lost my memory from the injuries and only recently remembered everything. As she spoke, tears began to fall with an expression I knew all too well, the look Mary wore whenever she felt wronged. I know it's hard to believe, but I really am Mary. I couldn't believe my eyes. The shade of lipstick Mary loved most, the faint little mole beneath her left ear, the unconscious habit of rubbing her ring while speaking. Everything was so familiar. Are you really Mary? She nodded and took a small box out of her bag. This is the proof. Inside the box was the first piece of jewelry Mary ever designed. A sapphire ring, the only one of its kind, never mass-produced. I brought it with me that day because I wanted to surprise you. I suddenly stood up and pulled her into my arms. 3 years of longing surged over me like a tide. I held her tightly, afraid that if I let go, she would disappear again. On the way home, she told me about her experiences over the past 3 years. She was rescued by an old doctor in the mountains, lost her memory due to a severe head injury, and lived in a remote mountain village for more than 2 years. It wasn't until she happened to see a poster for my art exhibition that her memory gradually returned. The next day, I took her to see Frank. Oh my God, it really is you, Mary. Frank stared in astonishment, eyes wide. Frank, it's been a long time. She greeted him with a smile, exactly as I remembered. Frank pulled me aside and whispered, Man, this is unbelievable, but I really believe it's her. Who else but Mary could call me by my childhood nickname so accurately? That was something only the two of you knew. A week later, Mary officially returned. We held a small welcome party for her. Her mother was so overwhelmed that she fainted, and when she woke up, she clung to her daughter and refused to let go. But that night, I noticed the first sign that something was off. Mary never ate mangoes because she was severely allergic. Yet the returned Mary absent-mindedly tasted a mango dessert and was perfectly fine. Aren't you allergic to mangoes? I asked. She paused for a moment, then quickly laughed and said, Oh, that old Chinese doctor cured my allergy. He's really amazing. I nodded, but in my heart, I marked the first question mark. Is this really my wife? A month passed quickly, and Mary blended perfectly into our lives. She knew the location of every item in the house, remembered our shared memories, and could even accurately name friends we hadn't contacted in years. But those subtle feelings of discord kept growing. For example, the real Mary liked to listen to classical music, especially Debussy, while designing jewelry. But she would always unconsciously hum along to pop songs. Mary always habitually used her left hand to hold chopsticks, even though she knew it was wrong. She just couldn't change. But she was a standard right-handed user. The most obvious difference appeared that night when I accidentally caught her smoking in the bedroom. The real Mary hated the smell of smoke. Even when I came home from social events with a faint scent of cigarettes, she would frown. When did you start smoking? I stood at the doorway, my voice soft. She was clearly startled, hastily snuffing out the cigarette. This is a herbal cigarette for treating insomnia, prescribed by an old Chinese doctor. I nodded, not pressing further, but the doubts in my heart only grew deeper. The next day, I went to find Frank. Help me check if, in the past 3 years, plastic surgery technology has advanced enough to achieve this level. Frank's eyes widened. You mean, she's not Mary? I'm not sure, but there are always some things that don't add up. 2 days later, Frank brought news. High-end plastic surgery can make faces look similar, but it can't replicate the exact placement of scars or moles. And there's a limit to how well someone can imitate a voice. What if it was a twin? Frank shook his head. Mary is an only child. We all know that. I decided not to show my feelings for now and to keep observing. A week later, Mary's mother came to my house with astonishing news. George, Mary is going to have a baby, my mother-in-law told me excitedly. I stood there stunned. Before we got married, Mary had been diagnosed with uterine hypoplasia. The doctor had made it clear she could never get pregnant. This was our shared secret. Not even my mother-in-law knew. How do you know that? I managed to ask. Mary told me this morning. She said she already had a checkup. It's been 2 months. My mother-in-law happily grabbed my hand. It's a blessing from above. Mary survived death, and now she can bring us new life. My heart sank to the bottom. This absolutely could not be Mary. That night, I dug out the hospital's diagnosis certificate in my study, which clearly stated the condition of Mary's uterus. But when I wanted to talk to Mary about it, I found her in the bedroom, excitedly discussing the decoration of the nursery with my mother-in-law. Mary, could you come here for a moment? I called her calmly. She followed me into the study, still wearing a blissful smile on her face. Did you forget about this? I handed her the diagnosis certificate. She took it and glanced at it, her face instantly turning pale. George, I can explain. Explain what? Explain that you're not Mary at all. Mother-in-law heard the commotion and walked in. What's going on with you two? Mom, take a look at this. I handed her the proof. My mother-in-law read it, then looked at Mary in astonishment. What's going on? Mary, you can't have children. Of course she can, I sneered, because she's not Mary at all. My mother-in-law's face changed dramatically. What nonsense are you talking about? I can explain. She hurriedly grabbed my mother-in-law's hand. That old Chinese doctor not only saved my life, but also cured my uterine problem. It's a miracle, truly. My mother-in-law looked at me, then at her, hesitating. George, you're being too paranoid. My mother-in-law finally took her daughter's side. Mary has come back with great difficulty. You should cherish her, not doubt her. Yes, George, I know this is hard to accept, but miracles do happen. Tears welled up in her eyes. Haven't we always wanted a child? Now we can finally have our own baby. I looked at her face, identical to Mary's, yet I became more certain in my heart. This woman was not my wife. All right, I believe you. I smiled, deciding to go along with their story for now. Let's wait together for this miracle to happen. That night, I secretly contacted a private detective. My mother-in-law gladly accepted her daughter's explanation, even suggesting she move in with us to take care of Mary during her pregnancy. Outwardly, I agreed, but inside I grew even more wary. This was no coincidence. There had to be some kind of plot. Mom, haven't you always lived in Haicheng? Won't it be hard to get used to living here? I probed cautiously. For my grandson, I'm willing to endure any inconvenience, my mother-in-law said firmly. I noticed a fleeting unnatural expression on Mary's face. Could the truth be connected to my mother-in-law? On the 3rd day after my mother-in-law moved in, I discovered more suspicious details. For example, the real Mary never drank coffee, but she and my mother-in-law often enjoyed it together. Also, Mary's favorite movie was Roman Holiday, but she claimed to prefer Titanic. The strangest thing is, Mary used to despise her cousin Tom when she was alive, but now he visits frequently and chats and laughs with Mary as if they're old friends. I told Frank about these discoveries. Buddy, things are getting more and more suspicious, Frank frowned. Are you sure you want to keep going like this? Why not just expose her directly? It's not the right time yet. I want to find out what they're really after. The private detective's investigation also made progress. The so-called old Chinese doctor who had saved Mary did not exist at all, and Mary's whereabouts over the past 3 years were completely untraceable. More importantly, the private detective uncovered a shocking fact during the investigation. Mary's cousin Tom was deeply in debt from gambling, and the painting Eternity under my name, worth over $6 million, was his only hope for quick cash. "They're after your painting," the private detective asserted, "and this fake Mary is likely a professional identity fraudster, hired to win your trust." I took a deep breath and decided to take the initiative. That afternoon, I pretended to go out, but secretly returned home and hid in the study. Sure enough, Mary and her cousin Tom were whispering to each other in the living room. "It's taking too long," Tom said irritably. "How much longer until he sells the painting?" "Don't worry," she soothed him. "I'm already pregnant, and now he completely believes I'm Mary. In a little while, I'll say I want to move to a better neighborhood for the sake of the baby, and then we'll naturally need to sell the painting to raise money." "You're really pregnant?" "That wasn't part of the plan. It was an accident, but it works to our advantage. George wants a child so badly." "Does Annie know the truth?" "She only knows we're trying to scam money, not the specific plan. But she hates George, thinks he caused her daughter's death, so she's more than happy to help." I clenched my fists. So my mother-in-law had always believed that Mary's accident was somehow my fault. In fact, we did argue over something trivial that day, and Mary stormed out in anger. I didn't try to stop her. But I never imagined it would be the last time I'd see her. "You don't actually have feelings for George, do you?" Tom suddenly asked. She was silent for a moment. "It's just part of the job. Besides, I owe you, and I won't go back on my word." "Good then. Don't forget how we're splitting the money once we get it." Their conversation confirmed my suspicions. This was all an elaborate scheme, with my eternity as the target. In the days that followed, I pretended everything was normal while secretly making preparations. I contacted the police, arranged for evidence-gathering equipment, and found the last piece Mary had left before she died, a silver necklace that had never been made public, engraved with an anniversary date only the two of us knew. 2 weeks later, my art exhibition was held as scheduled. As planned, Mary brought up the idea of moving, hinting that I could sell Eternity. I pretended to agree and said I would auction the painting on the last day of the exhibition. "This is a surprise I prepared for you," I said on the eve of the exhibition, taking out a delicate box. "To celebrate the new life we're about to begin." She opened the box in surprise, and inside was the silver necklace. "It's beautiful, thank you." She smiled as she prepared to put it on. "Wait," I stopped her. "Aren't you going to look at the engraving on the back?" She turned the necklace over, and her face suddenly went pale. "What's wrong? Don't you like it?" I asked, feigning ignorance. "No, I really like it. It's just, I'm a bit moved." She forced a smile, but didn't know how to explain that she couldn't recognize the significance of that date. "See you tomorrow. Get some good rest, and don't forget to wear this necklace." I kissed her forehead and whispered in her ear, "After all, this is your final design." Her body visibly stiffened for a moment, but she kept smiling. "Of course, I cherish it very much. Tomorrow, the truth will come to light." On the day of the exhibition, the place was packed with people. My painting, Eternity, was displayed in the most prominent spot, right next to the last batch of jewelry designs Mary had created before her death. Mary held my arm, flawlessly playing the role of my wife as always. She had even gone out of her way to wear Mary's favorite white dress and the silver necklace I had given her last night. My mother-in-law and Tom were there too. The three of them exchanged glances from time to time, clearly waiting for the perfect moment. Frank appeared as planned, pretending to be extremely interested in Eternity and asking me about the auction details. "The auction will begin promptly at 4 in the afternoon," I replied with a smile. "This painting means a great deal to me, and I hope it finds someone who truly appreciates it." Mary immediately chimed in. "Yes, although it's hard to part with it, this is a necessary decision for our future." I noticed she glanced at Tom, who gave a barely perceptible nod. At 3:30 in the afternoon, the projector in the center of the exhibition hall lit up. This was the special segment I had arranged. "Ladies and gentlemen, I stood in front of Eternity. Before the auction begins, I'd like to share a little story about this painting." Mary's photo appeared on the projection screen, a group picture from her last birthday party before she passed away. 3 years ago, my wife Mary died in an accident. I created this painting, Eternity, in her memory. The woman in the painting has her back to the viewer, forever gazing into the distance, symbolizing a longing I can never reach. A soft sigh rippled through the crowd. Mary stood beside me, matching my words with a sorrowful expression. However, a month ago, a miracle happened. I turned to look at Mary. My wife came back. The whole room erupted in astonishment, and many people curiously sized up, "Mary. This is my wife, Mary." I took her hand and stepped forward. Back from the dead, it's truly the greatest blessing heaven could have given me. She smiled and nodded to everyone, while my mother-in-law and Tom stood by with smug expressions. However, my tone suddenly shifted. Amidst my joy, a question arose. Is she really Mary? The entire room fell silent. Mary's hand trembled slightly in my palm. So, I did some investigating. The projector switched to a set of comparison photos. On the left was the real Mary. On the right was a photo of her. They look exactly the same, don't they? But I clicked the remote, and the photo was enlarged, the details highlighted. The position of the piercing on the left ear was slightly different, the arch of the eyebrows subtly varied, and the fine lines at the corners of the eyes ran in different directions. These are details that even professional plastic surgery cannot fully replicate. Mary tried to pull her hand away, but I held on tightly. My mother-in-law and Tom also began to grow anxious, glancing toward the exit. More importantly, the real Mary has a feature that cannot be copied. I turned to Mary. The necklace I gave you last night has a date engraved on the back. Can you tell everyone what that date is? She opened her mouth, but no words came out. That was the due date of our first child, the one we lost. I spoke softly, my voice trembling with emotion. Mary designed this necklace to commemorate the baby we never got to meet. The date was our secret, only Mary and I knew. The room fell utterly silent. Mary turned deathly pale, my mother-in-law's eyes widened, and Tom had already started edging toward the door. What surprised me even more, I continued, was that the real Mary could never get pregnant due to an underdeveloped uterus. Yet this, Mary claims she's already 2 months along. I let go of her hand and took a step back. So, who are you really? A flicker of despair flashed in Mary's eyes, but she quickly regained her composure. I am Mary, it's just that old Chinese doctor. The non-existent old Chinese doctor, right? I sneered. Just like the non-existent amnesia, the non-existent miraculous recovery. I turned toward the projection screen. Let's see the truth. The screen played the secretly recorded video of her conversation with Tom, their discussion on how to swindle eternity, clearly audible. This isn't. She tried to explain, but my mother-in-law had already rushed forward. Who are you really? My mother-in-law screamed. You're not my daughter? Auntie, stop pretending, I said calmly. You know she's not Mary. You just wanted to get back at me, didn't you? My mother-in-law's face turned pale. I didn't know she was going to impersonate Mary. Tom just said he needed help to scam some money. Police. Don't move. Several plainclothes officers emerged from the crowd, blocking Tom as he tried to escape. Amid the chaos, Mary took the opportunity to shove me aside and run toward the exit. I chased after her and caught up in the parking lot. Tell me, who are you really? She finally stopped, turned to face me, tears welling in her eyes. My name is Luna. I'm an actress. Tom found me and said if I helped trick you out of a painting, he'd give me $1 million. I needed the money for my sister's medical treatment. Why did they choose me? Why Mary? She shook her head. I don't know. They gave me a lot of information, photos, videos, even your chat logs. I was just following the script. The police arrived and took her away. I stood where I was, gazing at the distant sky, my heart a tumult of emotions. Back in the exhibition hall, the crowd had already dispersed, leaving only Frank and a few police officers. It's all been cleared up, Frank walked over. Tom owed money to loan sharks and was desperate. Your mother-in-law always resented you for not saving Mary, so she helped them plan the whole thing. I walked up to eternity, gently caressing the back of the woman in the painting. Mary, I can finally give you an answer. The police left with the evidence. Frank patted me on the shoulder. What do you plan to do next? I took a deep breath. Prepare for the final painting. What will it be called? The Pursuit, I said softly. This time, I'll paint her face, not just her back. After the case was solved, my life seemed to return to where it was 3 years ago. Eternity was temporarily held by the court as crucial evidence. Tom and Luna were arrested for fraud, and my mother-in-law was investigated as an accomplice. The prosecution wants you to testify in court, the officer called to inform me. The trial is scheduled for early next month. I agreed, though I was utterly exhausted inside. After exposing the deception, I thought I would feel the thrill of revenge, but what I felt instead was a profound emptiness. Those days spent with Mary that month had allowed me to feel a trace of warmth in life again, even if that warmth was born of lies. Frank often came to see me, worried I might fall into despair once more. I told him not to worry, that I was working on a new piece, The Pursuit. Are you really going to paint Mary's face from the front? Frank asked curiously. For the past 3 years, you've always refused to do that. It's time, I replied. We can't live in the past forever. I moved out of the apartment I had shared with Mary and returned to the old house in the suburbs, the place where the real Mary and I had first made our home. The dust-laden memories in the house brought me both pain and comfort. Mary's studio remained just as she had left it, design sketches scattered across the table, unfinished jewelry drafts pinned to the drawing board. One afternoon, while sorting through Mary's belongings, I discovered an encrypted external hard drive. After several attempts, I finally unlocked it using our wedding anniversary as the password. Inside were backups of Mary's design works, along with some personal photos and videos. One folder in particular caught my attention. Inside a folder named Plan was a series of jewelry design sketches, labeled George's Birthday Special Project. It was then I remembered that, in the months before Mary passed away, she often spoke mysteriously about giving me an unparalleled birthday surprise. Leafing through these design drafts, I couldn't help but be moved to tears. Mary had planned to design a jewelry collection inspired by my paintings over the years, with each piece corresponding to a representative work from my artistic career. The last page was a sketch of a ring, with a dark red stone set in the center, its edges adorned with tiny diamonds, closely resembling the sunrise in my early work, Dawn. This is blood amber? I examined the notes carefully, confirming the name of this rare gemstone. Mary's designs had always been bold, but blood amber is extremely rare in the Chinese market, almost impossible to acquire. How did she obtain such a material? As I continued searching, I found a series of email correspondence screenshots. Mary had actually contacted a gemstone dealer in Myanmar, commissioning the blood amber specifically for this ring. The last email showed that the gem had already been shipped, but the date was exactly 1 week before Mary's death. I immediately called Frank. Help me check if there was a package sent from Myanmar 3 years ago, addressed to Mary. 2 days later, Frank brought news. The package did exist, but since no one signed for it, it was returned. However, according to the shipping records, it was resent a month ago, this time addressed to you. What? I was completely confused. I haven't received any package. Check your old apartment? Frank suggested. Back at my old apartment, the manager told me there was indeed a package, but it had been signed for by Mary. She said it was a surprise for you, so she didn't notify you, the manager explained. This meant Luna had taken the blood amber. I rushed to the detention center and requested to see Luna. Separated by glass, she looked much more haggard than the last time we met, but still wore that face so similar to Mary's. What are you doing here? She asked coldly. A month ago, you signed for a package from Myanmar. There was a blood amber inside. I want to know where it is. She looked surprised. How did you know? Tom asked me to sign for it. He said it was some precious gem. He took it. My heart sank. Tom was deep in gambling debt. A precious blood amber would be a windfall for him. He had probably sold it long ago. That blood amber is very important to me, I said softly. It was the last gift my wife left me. Luna was silent for a moment, then suddenly said, maybe it's not that bad. Tom said the stone has flaws, its value is greatly reduced, and he hasn't found a suitable buyer yet. Hope was rekindled. If Tom hadn't sold the blood amber yet, maybe there was still a chance to get it back. Do you know where he might hide it? Luna hesitated for a moment. He has a safe deposit box in a self-storage facility on the east side of the city. After getting the address, I immediately contacted the officer in charge of the case and explained the situation. Since Tom was involved in a large sum of money, the police quickly approved the search request. Mr. George, we've found the safe deposit box, the officer said over the phone. Inside, we did find the blood amber you described, as well as some other evidence. A few hours later, I retrieved the blood amber at the police station. It was even more beautiful than I had imagined. Within the dark red core, Wisps of mist seemed to swirl, shifting strangely under the light. This was the birthday gift Mary had so carefully chosen for me, waiting for 3 years. Back home, I carefully placed the blood amber beside the canvas of the pursuit. The painting was already more than half finished, Mary's face emerging from the blur into clarity, yet it still felt like something was missing. Watching the blood amber glimmer faintly under the light, I suddenly understood how I should complete the painting. The creation of the pursuit entered its final stage. I decided to break convention and incorporate the blood amber into the artwork. This would not only be a portrait, but a hybrid piece that fused painting with the art of jewelry. Are you sure you want to do this? Frank frowned. That blood amber is priceless. That's exactly why, I said firmly. Mary chose it for me. She wanted to inspire an unparalleled masterpiece. I will fulfill her wish. For 2 whole weeks, I worked day and night, neglecting sleep and food. I cut the blood amber into thin slices and inlaid them at the spot of Mary's eyes on the canvas, making her gaze truly come alive. I used a special technique to blend the surrounding paint, creating a harmonious transition with the gemstone. From certain angles, the entire painting seemed to be imbued with life, and Mary's expression would shift depending on where the viewer stood. On the day I finished the piece, Frank brought news. Luna had been sentenced to 3 years in prison, but due to her good attitude in confessing, she might serve only a year and a half. Tom, involved in multiple fraud cases, was sentenced to 7 years. My mother-in-law, as an accomplice, received a suspended sentence. The case is finally over, Frank said. Are you planning to exhibit your painting? Yes. Next month there will be a solo exhibition at the National Art Museum, and The Pursuit will be the grand finale. The curator couldn't stop praising this piece, believing it represents the innovative direction of contemporary art and marks the pinnacle of my career. Indeed, this painting, which incorporates Mary's jewelry design concepts, is in some sense a creation we made together. On the eve of the exhibition, I checked the arrangement in the gallery alone one last time, making sure every piece was perfectly lit and positioned. When I reached The Pursuit, I couldn't help but stop and gaze at it. Mary's face was vividly lifelike, her eyes inlaid with blood amber gleaming under the spotlight, as if she were smiling at me. For the first time in 3 years, I faced her directly, no longer painting only her back. Mr. George, a stranger's voice called from behind. Sorry to disturb you, but the gallery has been cleared. He turned around to see a young woman dressed in the museum's staff uniform. And you are? I'm the new curator, responsible for security in your exhibition area, she explained with a smile. I really like your work, especially this piece, The Pursuit. Thank you. I nodded. I'll be leaving soon. She didn't leave, but continued to gaze at the painting. That red gem is beautiful, almost as if it's alive. It's blood amber, I explained, a very rare gemstone. I know, she said softly, top-grade blood amber from Myanmar, containing plant fossils, extremely rare. I looked at her in surprise. You know a lot about jewelry? She smiled. I study jewelry design. I'm just working part-time here. For some reason, Mary suddenly came to mind. She, too, had an almost obsessive passion for and expertise in gemstones. If you don't mind me asking, who is the woman in this painting? She asked. My wife, I replied. She passed away 3 years ago. She was a jewelry designer. I'm very sorry, she said sincerely, then gestured toward the blood amber. This gem must mean a great deal to you. It was the last birthday gift she chose for me before she died, but I only found it recently. She nodded thoughtfully. Setting it into her portrait is the best way to remember her. For some reason, talking with this unfamiliar woman brought me a strange sense of calm. Perhaps it was her love for jewelry that reminded me of Mary. Sorry, I have to continue my rounds. She glanced at her watch. See you tomorrow, Mr. George. See you tomorrow, I replied, watching her leave. On the way home, I felt an unusual peace. The completion of The Pursuit seemed to mark the end of my search for Mary as well, not forgetting, but remembering her forever in another way. The next day, the exhibition's opening ceremony attracted numerous figures from the art world and the media. The Pursuit undoubtedly became the center of attention, with people marveling at this innovative form of artistic expression. Amid the crowd, I noticed that curator standing aside, watching as well. Sunlight streamed through the skylight of the gallery, falling upon her, and for a fleeting moment, I thought I saw Mary's shadow. No, I shook my head. warning myself not to be deceived by mere resemblance. There would never be another Mary in this world, just as there would never be another unique blood amber. After the exhibition, the pursuit was purchased by an anonymous collector for an astronomical price. I donated all the proceeds to a foundation supporting students in jewelry design, establishing a scholarship in Mary's name. Life slowly moved forward, and I began to accept new commissions and create new works. Occasionally, I would think of that curator with a unique insight into jewelry, wondering if she was still working at the art museum. Until one day, I received an email from HL. There were no words, only an image. A sketch of a ring design, the style strikingly similar to Mary's unfinished series. My heart raced as I replied immediately. Who is this? The response came quickly. Yesterday, you brushed past me by the cafe on the street corner, but you didn't recognize me. If you want to know more, wait for me at the museum entrance at noon tomorrow. Is it that librarian? How could she have a design so reminiscent of Mary's style? Filled with anxiety and anticipation, I decided to accept the invitation and find out for myself. The next day at noon, I arrived at the art museum half an hour early. The sun was shining, and small groups of visitors were coming and going from the exhibition hall. But there was no sign of the mysterious person. Just as I began to suspect this might be some kind of prank, a faint trace of perfume drifted by, a scent unfamiliar to me, yet it inexplicably reminded me of Mary. Mr. George, thank you for coming. The voice behind me made me turn around. It was the curator. Today, she wasn't wearing her uniform, but a simple white dress, completely different from Mary's style when she was alive. Did you send the email? I asked directly. She nodded. There are some things I want to tell you, but not here. Will you come with me? We walked through the small park beside the art museum and arrived at a secluded cafe. The whole time, I kept observing her. Her mannerisms, the way she walked, none of it resembled Mary. Yet her sensitivity to detail and her focused attention gave me a strange sense of familiarity. Who are you, really? The moment we sat down, I couldn't wait to ask. My name is Nicole. She looked me straight in the eye. I'm Mary's student. This answer caught me off guard. Mary had indeed taught jewelry design part-time at the Design Academy before she passed away, but she had never mentioned having any particularly close students. I took her advanced design class the year before she passed, Nicole explained. Her guidance benefited me for a lifetime. That still doesn't explain why your designs resemble her style so much, I said, half convinced. Nicole took a folder out of her bag. These are all notes from Ms. Nicole's class and her feedback on my work. You can look at the handwriting and confirm that it's really hers. I carefully examined the materials. It was indeed Mary's handwriting. There were even traces of the pale purple ink she habitually used. Before Ms. Nicole passed away, she was guiding me on my graduation project, Nicole continued. The theme was interwoven light and shadow, blending Eastern and Western aesthetic elements. She gave me a lot of valuable advice, and even showed me a sketch from a private project she was working on at the time. George's special birthday project? I blurted out. Nicole's eyes widened in surprise. You know about it? I only found out recently. I briefly explained the origin of the blood amber. I knew that blood amber would eventually find its way back to you, Nicole said with a smile. Nicole always said it was a destined gift. Is that why you contacted me? Because you saw the blood amber? Nicole was silent for a moment, as if choosing her words carefully. Not entirely. After Nicole passed away, I've been trying to carry on the design philosophy she taught me. Some time ago, I happened to see the news about your eternity being stolen, and then I saw someone impersonating Nicole. I thought I should tell you a few things. She took a letter out of her bag. This is the last letter Nicole gave me after class before she passed away. She said if her surprise plan went smoothly, I should show you this letter. If anything went wrong and she was gone, I should still make sure you see it. I took the envelope. It was indeed Mary's handwriting, and it read, "To my dearest husband." The envelope had already been opened. I didn't know what was in the letter at the time. I just kept it as Nicole instructed, Nicole explained. It wasn't until I saw the news that I opened it. I hope you won't blame me. I carefully took out the letter paper and unfolded it to read. Dear George, if you are reading this letter, perhaps my surprise plan has gone awry. Don't worry, it's just that the plan has changed, and the form of the gift may be different now. The blood amber I picked for you is said to be known as the Eye of Rebirth. Legend has it that looking at the world through it reveals truths that are often overlooked. I hope it can become a turning point in your artistic career, leading you to see new possibilities. All these years, your paintings have always depicted backs, as if you're afraid to face something head-on. I hope this gemstone will give you the courage to paint the front, to capture true emotions. No matter what happens, please remember, love does not disappear, it merely changes form, like this blood amber, which, after millions of years, transforms from resin into a gem, yet still shines. Forever loving you, Mary. The handwriting became a bit messy at the end, as if written in a hurry. I stroked the paper, as if I could feel Mary's emotions at that moment. Thank you, I said, my voice choked with emotion. This means a lot to me. You're welcome. I'm just fulfilling Ms. Nicole's request, Nicole said with a smile. Actually, there's one more thing I'd like to ask your help with. What is it? I'd like to apply for the Mary Scholarship you established, she said, taking a design portfolio out of her bag. This is my graduation project, combining Ms. Nicole's ideas with my own innovations. As I flipped through the portfolio, I was surprised to find that while these designs bore traces of Mary's influence, they also possessed a unique style and innovative touches. In particular, a series called Metamorphosis cleverly combined jewelry with transformable elements, allowing the pieces to change form according to the wearer's mood and occasion. This is outstanding, I praised sincerely. Mary would be proud of you. A hint of joy flashed in Nicole's eyes. Really? I've always worried I couldn't live up to her expectations. You've already moved beyond the learning stage and developed your own style. That's exactly what she hoped to see. As we talked, sunlight streamed through the window and fell on Nicole. In that moment, I seemed to understand something. When Mary spoke of love changing its form, perhaps she wasn't just referring to the blood amber, but also to her passion for art and its legacy. Luna tried to impersonate Mary by mimicking her appearance, but she could never truly replicate who she was. Nicole, on the other hand, looked nothing like Mary, yet she inherited a part of her artistic vision and spirit. Perhaps this is the true gift Mary left me, not the blood amber, but a new possibility, a path out of the past. Nicole's graduation exhibition was held in a small gallery. Though the space was modest, it was exquisitely arranged. Her works were divided into 3 series, representing the past, the present, and the future, forming a complete narrative. This is a brilliant idea, I sincerely praised. From tradition to contemporary and then to the future, it showcases the evolution and possibilities of jewelry design. Nicole smiled and nodded. This was inspired by teacher Nicole. She always says that good design should look back at history, be grounded in the present, and look forward to the future. As I walked through the exhibition hall, I noticed a special display case in the corner, containing only one piece, a seemingly simple ring with a small red gemstone set in the center. This is. I leaned in to read the label, which said, in memory, dedicated to teacher Mary. Yes, I made it from a small piece of blood amber I bought with my own savings, Nicole explained. It can't compare to the quality of yours, but it's also from Myanmar. I examined the design of the ring closely. Clean, powerful lines with fine silver threads encircling the blood amber, as if protecting the central gem, yet also seeming to radiate light outward. This is very similar to Mary's final design style, I said softly, but it also has your own unique touch. I wanted to create a piece that could both commemorate teacher Nicole and showcase my own style, Nicole explained. The blood amber represents her influence, while the outer design is the direction of my own development. The exhibition attracted quite a few industry insiders, including some well-known figures from the jewelry design world. After viewing the exhibition, an older female designer approached Nicole and offered her an internship opportunity. I stood by, genuinely happy for Nicole. In the evening, as the exhibition was drawing to a close, Frank arrived as well. Seeing me with Nicole, he gave me a knowing smile. New friend? He asked me quietly. Mary's student, I explained simply. Very talented. Frank nodded without asking further questions. After touring the exhibition, he gave high praise to Nicole's work. It blends traditional and modern elements, demonstrating both technical skill and artistic expression, quite rare. Nicole thanked him politely. This wouldn't have been possible without the guidance of teacher Nicole and teacher George. After the exhibition, the 3 of us went to a nearby restaurant for dinner. During the meal, Frank talked about recent trends in the art market, while Nicole shared her insights on contemporary jewelry design. The conversation was light and pleasant, and I realized it had been a long time since I had relaxed and chatted with others like this. After a few rounds of drinks, Frank received an urgent call and left early. Only Nicole and I remained in the restaurant, and the atmosphere suddenly became a bit quiet. Mr. George, Nicole hesitated for a moment before speaking. I've always had a question I wanted to ask you. What is it? After you finished the pursuit, what are you planning to create next? The question caught me off guard. To be honest, ever since the pursuit, I haven't had any new inspiration. That painting seemed to have drained all my emotions and creativity. I haven't decided yet, I answered honestly. It might take some time to find a new direction. Nicole nodded thoughtfully. Nicole once said that the hardest thing for an artist isn't creating a stunning masterpiece, but finding a way forward after reaching the peak. She really did say that, I recalled with a smile. Mary always saw further than I did. Maybe, Nicole said softly, you could try a new direction that combines your work with jewelry design? Like in The Pursuit, but taking it even further. I recalled what Mary mentioned in her letter about seeing new possibilities, and suddenly I was inspired. You mean, creating a series of works that combine painting and jewelry? Exactly. Nicole said excitedly, your paintings create emotion in two-dimensional space, while jewelry gives it tangible form in the three-dimensional world. The combination of the two would have an astonishing effect. The more we talked, the more engaged we became, even sketching a few concept designs on the restaurant's napkins. Nicole's ideas were fresh and bold, perfectly aligning with my artistic vision, yet bringing a new perspective. As we left the restaurant, Nicole suddenly said, I have to confess something. I looked at her in confusion. I reached out to you not only to deliver Nicole's letter, but also for a personal reason. I hope to learn from you, she said candidly. I want to become a designer like Nicole, someone who not only creates beautiful works but also perfectly blends art with emotion. Her sincerity moved me. You're already on that path, and you're doing very well. Then, may I consult you often? She asked a little nervously. Of course, I'd be delighted. On the way home, a series of new works already began to take shape in my mind. A cross-disciplinary art that fuses painting and jewelry, both as a tribute to Mary and as a new starting point in my artistic career. That night, I had a dream. In the dream, Mary stood in a halo of blood-red light, smiling at me and saying, see, I knew you would find a new direction. When I woke up, I got out of bed immediately and began sketching for the new series. I decided to name it Rebirth. Not only representing the ancient life forever preserved in blood amber, but also symbolizing the rebirth of my artistic career, as well as the inheritance and development of Mary's artistic vision. A week later, I submitted a new series proposal to the gallery and received an enthusiastic response. The curator even suggested holding a special exhibition themed Between Dimensions, a dialogue between painting and jewelry. For this project, I invited Nicole to join the team as a jewelry design consultant. She had just graduated from design school and was both excited and nervous about the opportunity. Am I really up to the task? She asked me in the studio. You understand Mary's design philosophy better than anyone, I assured her. That's exactly what I need. In the days that followed, we worked at a feverish pace. We created during the day and discussed at night, sometimes even working through until dawn. Nicole's ideas flowed endlessly, and I transformed those thoughts into concrete artistic expressions. In the process, I rediscovered the pure joy of creation that I hadn't felt in a long time. One late night, when we finally finished the design for our first piece, Nicole clapped her hands excitedly. This is amazing. Teacher Nicole will definitely love it. At the mention of Mary, she suddenly realized her slip and looked at me nervously. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. It's all right, I said with a smile. I think Mary really would like it. She always hoped I could step out of my comfort zone and try new ways of expressing myself. Nicole let out a sigh of relief, then hesitantly asked, Professor George, may I ask you a personal question? What is it? When you faced the woman impersonating Professor Nicole, how did you see through her? I mean, from the news reports, she seemed like an exact copy of Professor Nicole. I pondered for a moment. Superficial resemblance is easy to achieve, but a true personality cannot be duplicated. Mary's perception of art, her attitude toward life, the way she handled details, these were all unique. Just like a work of art, Nicole mused. No matter how perfect a replica is, it can never capture the soul of the original. Exactly. We worked through the night again, and finally established the overall framework for the Rebirth series. 7 pieces, each blending elements of painting and jewelry, together telling a story of loss and recovery, death and rebirth. As our collaboration deepened, my relationship with Nicole gradually shifted from teacher and student to partners, both mentor and friend. Sometimes, when the light traced the gentle contours of her focused profile, I would unconsciously think of Mary. But soon, I realized that this association wasn't due to any physical resemblance, but rather that same dedication and passion for art. "George, you look much more spirited lately," Frank remarked at a gathering. "It's been a while since I've seen you so full of life." "Yeah, the new project has helped me rediscover the joy of creating." "Nicole's a good girl," Frank said meaningfully. "Talented, and she really understands you." I understood his implication, but just smiled without responding. There was indeed a special understanding between Nicole and me, but it was more rooted in our shared passion for art than anything else. At least for now. The creation of the Rebirth series took 3 months, longer than expected, but the results were stunning. Each piece was a perfect fusion of painting and jewelry art, offering both the pleasure of viewing as a flat image and the discovery of 3-dimensional effects brought by the jewelry elements from different angles. A week before the exhibition opened, I received an unexpected visitor, Luna. She had served her sentence and was released early. She looked much more haggard than the last time we met, but her eyes were clearer. "I came to apologize to you in person." She stood at the studio door, her voice low, "for everything I have done." I didn't respond immediately, but simply invited her in to sit down. "I know that an apology can't make up for the loss," she continued, "but I want you to know that I truly regret it." "How is your sister's illness?" I asked. She looked up in surprise. You know. I guessed. "You said you needed money for a reason, and I think that must have been true." "Yes," she nodded. "My sister's surgery was a success, and now she's fully recovered. For the past 3 years, I've been thinking about how to make up for my mistakes, even though I may never be able to." I was silent for a moment, then said, "You know, in a way, your appearance actually helped me." "What do you mean?" "It forced me to confront the past, to re-examine my memories with Mary, and ultimately to find a way forward." I pointed to the sketches of the Rebirth series on the wall and briefly explained this new project. Luna listened quietly, a look of genuine respect in her eyes. "I'm glad you were able to find a new beginning from that nightmare," she said at last. "I hope I can find my own path to rebirth as well." As she left, she handed me a small package. "These are some simple pieces of jewelry I made in prison. The craftsmanship is rough, but each one represents my remorse and blessings. I hope you can accept them." Opening the package, I found several small trinkets handmade from fine wire and colorful glass beads. Though simple, it was clear the creator had poured their heart into them. Nicole happened to come into the studio at that moment. Seeing the trinkets, she asked curiously, "What are these?" I told her about Luna's visit. "You forgave her?" Nicole was a bit surprised. "Not exactly forgiveness," I said thoughtfully. "It's more like understanding. Everyone has their own hardships and choices. What's important is how we learn and grow from our mistakes." Nicole nodded pensively, picking up a piece of jewelry to examine it closely. "The craftsmanship is rough, but the concept is ingenious. This person seems to have a talent for design." "Perhaps," I said. "Everyone has the possibility of being reborn." On the day of the exhibition opening, numerous figures from the art and jewelry worlds gathered together. The Rebirth series received unprecedented acclaim. Critics called it a model of cross-disciplinary art, and the gallery owner was overjoyed, announcing plans for a nationwide tour. In the crowd, I saw Luna. She was dressed simply, standing quietly in a corner, admiring the exhibits. Our eyes met in the air. She nodded slightly, then walked away. "Who was that?" Nicole asked, standing beside me. "Someone searching for rebirth," I replied. Nicole seemed to understand and asked no more. We stood side by side before the pursuit, watching the blood amber refract a strange light under the lamps, like the silent burning of life's flame. "Thank you," I whispered to Nicole. "Without you, this series might never have come into being." "It was your philosophy that guided us, Teacher Nicole," she replied modestly. "I was just fortunate enough to be the messenger." In that moment, I suddenly understood the true meaning of what Mary had written in her letter. Love has changed its form. Love exists not only in memory and longing, but also in inheritance and innovation, shining brightly in every spark of artistic creation. And I, at last, had learned how to begin anew after loss, to embrace rebirth while still searching. The success of the exhibition exceeded everyone's expectations. In just 1 month, the Rebirth series was reported on by major media outlets and even attracted the attention of the international art world. A renowned auction house extended an olive branch to me, hoping to include several pieces in their annual highlight auction. "This is an unprecedented opportunity," Frank said excitedly. "If the deal goes through, you'll become a top player in the contemporary art market." I wasn't particularly concerned with commercial success, but I did feel the joy of having my work widely recognized. More importantly, this series opened up a new artistic path for me, freeing me from the creative shackles of the past 3 years. Nicole benefited as well. As the project's jewelry design consultant, she received high praise from the industry. Several well-known jewelry brands reached out to her, hoping she would join their design teams. "Which offer are you planning to accept?" One night, as we were tidying up the studio together, I asked her. "To be honest, I'm still hesitating." Nicole paused her work. "These are all great opportunities, but what? But I want to keep working with you." She looked straight into my eyes. "Rebirth is just the beginning, isn't it?" Her candor surprised me a little. Indeed, the success of this series had opened up many new creative possibilities for us, but I wasn't sure if I should continue such a close working relationship. "You should consider your own career development," I said tactfully. "These opportunities are very rare for young designers." Nicole seemed to sense my hesitation and nodded gently. "I understand." In the days that followed, we were both busy and rarely had the chance to talk alone. A week later, Nicole told me she had decided to accept an invitation from a French jewelry brand and would be going to Paris to work for 2 years. "Congratulations," I said sincerely. "It's a very good choice." "Thank you," she replied with a smile, though a fleeting, elusive emotion flashed in her eyes. "I think this is the best arrangement for both of us." Before Nicole left, we held a small farewell party. Frank, the curator, and a few mutual friends came. The atmosphere was warm, tinged with a hint of sadness. After a few rounds of drinks, Frank found an opportunity to pull me aside. "Are you really going to just let her go like this?" "What do you mean?" I pretended not to understand. "Don't play dumb, man," Frank said bluntly. "You have feelings for her. That's obvious." "That's just professional rapport," I argued. "Is that so?" Frank looked at me meaningfully. "Then why have you been so distracted ever since she decided to go to France?" I was at a loss for words. In fact, these past few days I had indeed felt an inexplicable sense of loss, but I kept telling myself it was only because I had lost an excellent partner. "I know what you're worried about." Frank lowered his voice. "You feel like you're letting Mary down, don't you?" I remained silent. He had touched upon the deepest concern in my heart. "Mary has been gone for 3 years now." Frank gently patted my shoulder. "She would want you to be happy." After the party ended, I walked Nicole home. The night was tranquil as water, and the city lights flowed around us. "Thank you for your help and guidance these past few months." Nicole stopped at the entrance of her apartment building. "This experience has meant so much to me." "I should be thanking you," I said sincerely. "Without you, the Rebirth series would never have been completed." We fell into silence, as if both searching for the right words to say goodbye. "My flight is the morning after tomorrow," Nicole finally said. "I still have some things to take care of tomorrow. So, this is probably the last time we'll see each other. 2 years will pass quickly." I tried to make my voice sound light. "Paris is a beautiful city. You'll like it there." She nodded, a complex emotion flickering in her eyes. "Professor George, there's something I've always wanted to tell you, but never found the right opportunity." "What is it?" "I chose to study jewelry design because I saw Nicole's works." She took a deep breath, or more precisely, because I saw the pieces Nicole designed for you. The way she perfectly fused love and art moved me deeply. "I didn't know that," I said in surprise. "I've always hoped that one day I could be like Nicole, creating art filled with emotion." Nicole continued, her words coming faster, as if afraid she might lose her courage. "But now I realize that what I want even more is to create for a specific person, just like Nicole created for you." I understood her implication, and my heart suddenly began to race. Nicole, please don't respond. She gently interrupted me. I just wanted you to know before I leave. No matter how you feel right now, remember that starting over is not a betrayal of the past, but a way of cherishing life. With that, she rose up on her tiptoes and softly kissed my cheek, then quickly turned and walked into the apartment building, leaving me standing alone in the night, my mind in turmoil. After returning home, I tossed and turned, unable to sleep, replaying Nicole's words and that gentle kiss over and over in my mind. Suddenly, I remembered a small box in the study, where Mary's last complete letter was kept, a letter I had found while sorting through her belongings. But at the time, overwhelmed by grief, I never had the courage to open. Now, I finally mustered the courage to walk into the study and retrieve that delicate little box from the depths of the drawer. Inside lay a pale pink letter, bearing Mary's familiar handwriting. Dearest George, by the time you read this letter, you may find yourself at a crossroads in life, hesitating between moving forward or staying where you are. My greatest wish is that you can move bravely through life, as freely as your brush glides across the canvas. Love is not a shackle, but a liberation. Memory is not a burden, but a source of strength. If one day you meet someone who can rekindle the light in your eyes, please don't hesitate because of your longing for me. True love is wishing happiness for the other, even if there is no longer a place for oneself in that happiness. Remember, the days we loved each other were complete, with no need for regrets. And now, it's time to paint a new picture, my beloved. Forever loving you. Mary. Tears blurred my vision. It was as if Mary had foreseen my current situation and had already given me her blessing. She was always like this, always able to see further and more clearly than I could. At that moment, I made up my mind. Early the next morning, I drove straight to Nicole's apartment. Professor George? Nicole opened the door in surprise, clearly not expecting me. I have something to say to you. I looked her straight in the eyes, not as your teacher, but as George. I handed her Mary's letter. Nicole read it carefully, her expression shifting from surprise to being moved, and finally, her eyes grew moist. She truly was an extraordinary woman, Nicole said softly, handing the letter back to me. Yes, she was. I nodded. That's exactly why I believe her words. Nicole, cancel your plans for Paris. Stay and continue our collaboration, will you? Nicole looked at me in shock. Are you serious? I've never been more serious, I said quietly. Rebirth is not just the name of an artwork, it's a possibility in life. Are you willing to explore that possibility with me? Her answer was a firm embrace, warm and real, like the first ray of sunlight after a long winter. In that moment, I felt as if Mary was somewhere, smiling down on us, blessing this new beginning. Life is like that blood amber, enduring countless ages of change and sedimentation, ultimately transforming into an eternal radiance. And I, at last, understood what true pursuit is, what true rebirth means. A year later, Nicole and I unveiled our second joint project, Interwoven, at the National Art Museum. This series was even bolder and more innovative than Rebirth, blending Eastern and Western aesthetics with various art forms. Critics hailed it as a significant breakthrough in contemporary art. At the opening ceremony, Nicole held my arm as we faced the media interviews and congratulations from the audience together. She wore a simple white dress, and around her neck was the Eye of Rebirth necklace we designed together. She completed the jewelry part based on my painting. Your collaboration seems even more in sync than your last project, a reporter asked with a suggestive smile. Nicole glanced at me, and we exchanged a smile. Yes, both in art and in life, we found the perfect balance. This indirect answer drew a round of good-natured laughter from the reporters present. My relationship with Nicole was no longer a secret, but we always kept a low profile, letting the public's attention remain focused on our artistic creations. After the exhibition, we drove out to a small hill in the countryside. There stood an ancient oak tree, beneath which Mary's ashes were laid to rest. This was the place we chose, rather than a traditional cemetery, natural, peaceful, just like Mary herself. Mary, the exhibition was a great success today, I said softly to the stone beneath the tree. Nicole's designs were admired by everyone, just as you once predicted. Nicole crouched down and placed a bouquet of white daisies in front of the stone. Teacher Nicole, I've been working hard to become the kind of designer you hoped I would be. I hope you can be proud of me. A gentle breeze stirred, and the oak's leaves rustled softly, as if it were Mary's reply. On the way back, Nicole suddenly said, I've been thinking about something. What is it? If that woman who pretended to be Ms. Nicole hadn't appeared, You might never have found the blood amber, never created the pursuit, and we might never have met. Her words made me fall into deep thought. Indeed, it was the series of events triggered by that deception that ultimately led to everything now. It feels as if, in the unseen, some force has been orchestrating it all. Perhaps that's the irony of fate, I said softly. Sometimes, the worst beginnings can lead us to the best endings. When I returned home, I received an unexpected package. Upon opening it, I found a delicate little box containing a handmade ring. Though simple, the craftsmanship had improved greatly compared to the pieces I had seen before. There was a note attached. Mr. George, thank you for your kindness and understanding a year ago, which gave me the courage to start over. Now I have found a job at a small jewelry shop, and my life is gradually getting back on track. This ring represents my gratitude, and I wish you happiness and well-being on your new path. Luna, I handed the ring to Nicole. After examining it carefully, she remarked, her skills have improved a lot. She truly is talented. Some mistakes in life shouldn't become permanent scars, I sighed. Everyone deserves a second chance. That night, we sat in the studio, discussing ideas for the next series. Nicole suddenly proposed a bold idea. I was thinking, maybe we could try connecting the different stages of our work to create a complete narrative. From eternity to quest, then to rebirth, and intertwined, they're actually different phases in a person's life journey. You mean? A complete story about loss, searching, rebirth, and integration, she explained excitedly, ultimately asking what is the most precious treasure in life. Love. I finished her sentence. No matter what form it takes. Nicole nodded, her eyes sparkling with creative fire. We could call it the forms of love, an unprecedented artistic exploration. Sounds like a long-term, ambitious project. We have time, she smiled, holding my hand. We have so much time. In that moment, I felt a powerful surge of creative inspiration, just like when I first began my artistic career years ago, filled with passion and possibility. But this time, I was not facing the blank canvas alone. 2 years later, the Forms of Love series was exhibited simultaneously in the world's 5 greatest art museums, causing an unprecedented sensation. Critics called it a milestone in contemporary art history, blending painting, sculpture, jewelry design, and other art forms to create an entirely new artistic language. The final piece of the exhibition was titled Eternal Ring, a massive circular canvas depicting every form of love in life, familial, platonic, romantic, and the love for art itself. The edge of the canvas was inlaid with gemstones of various sizes, and under certain lighting, these gems would cast light onto specific parts of the canvas, revealing another hidden layer of patterns. The centerpiece of this work is a massive blood amber. Through intricate optical design, the light it projects perfectly outlines 2 embracing figures. One is Mary, the other is Nicole, symbolizing the intersection of past and present, the fusion of memory and rebirth. On the closing day of the exhibition, in front of the Eternal Ring, I knelt on one knee and proposed to Nicole. The ring was crafted from the very blood amber Mary had once prepared for me, designed by my own hand and fashioned by the finest jeweler. This ring carries the memories of the past and the hopes for the future, I whispered softly. Nicole, will you be the eternal ring in my life? Her tears sparkled under the spotlight. I will. Amidst the cheers, I remembered what Mary once said. Love does not disappear. It merely changes its form. Yes, love does not disappear. It exists in memories, in art, in every rebirth and new beginning. It traverses time and crosses space, like that blood amber which, after millions of years, still shines, forever retaining the original warmth and brilliance of life. This is the answer I have been searching for all along. Between loss and gain, between seeking and rebirth, love remains constant, only appearing in different forms along the journey of life. And all we need to do is bravely accept this gift, no matter how it comes to us. On the day of the wedding, the sky was a clear, washed blue. Beneath the ancient oak tree that had watched over Mary, we exchanged our vows. A gentle breeze stirred, making the leaves whisper as if blessings were drifting in from another world. No matter when or where, Nicole said softly, We'll always remember that it was she who brought us together. Yes, I squeezed her hand, and we will always cherish this gift. In the brilliant sunlight, the blood amber ring gleamed, radiant as life itself, enduring the passage of time, yet still shining bright.